The presentation of this topic is interactive approaches for vocabulary teaching. My name is Grace Lin. I'm a PhD of Texas A&M University of College Station. About the vocabulary acquisition research, it has been paid attention these years. They use the forms of the visual glossing and so on to analyze the vocabulary acquisition. The study argues that because the research of vocabulary teaching method has not a long history, since 1999, as Reed mentioned, English teachers should pay additional efforts in learning how to raise our students' vocabulary proficiencies. River in 2009 suggests that we should provide the effective interactive approach to teach our students. This research has been conducted in National Sun Yat-sen University. There are 26 learners learn higher intermediate level vocabularies in a required general English course. The keywords of the study is interactive approaches, teacher-centered, student-centered, pair work, and group work. About the introduction, the pedagogies of teaching vocabularies are important under the trend of globalization in the 2 decades. Within the increasing international situations caused by frequent international interaction for various types of purposes, the adult language learner vocabulary accumulations are confronting a condition of being tested. So this study argues under the trend of globalization, English teachers, especially who are teaching adult learners in universities, should fully apply the updated interactive approaches in order to teach their students English vocabularies. So if the current English teachers are not able to face the challenge of globalization trend, their students will encounter obscurity when they need to communicate with the right words in international situations. About the vocabulary pedagogy as a significant area, these years a number of researchers have devoted themselves to techniques of vocabulary teaching and learning. Moreover, Zahar, Cobb, and Spada have mentioned that concentration on second language vocabulary acquisition has developed speedily in the last 10 years. Interactionism applied in language teaching has been mentioned by many researchers. This type of interactive method argues that the foreign language growth and the social community growth are directly related to each other and that cannot be comprehended without each other. According to the professor of Harvard University, River, the linguistic interaction is a collaborative activity involving the establishment of a triangular relationship between the sender, the receiver, and the context of situation. About the function of gathering information through group work. Students in group of 3 or 4 then discuss the foreign language, the 3 or 4 most important points to remember in this unit or some unresolved questions, according to River's statements. According to many scholars, activities in pair are the most effective way of English learning. About the function of a discourse play through pair work, the numbers of English teaching experts have ever emphasized the value of role play in formats of interaction. For example, Yoko Watanabe had ever conducted an experiment of learners encountering situations through pair work. Her data showed that the higher and the lower proficiency peers could both provide opportunities for learning when they work collaboratively. Moreover, all 3 learners prefer to work with a partner who share many ideas. regardless of their proficiency level. These findings suggest that proficiency differences are not the decisive factor affecting the nature of peer assistance. Rather, the pattern of interaction co-constructed by learners may have great impact. According to Zahar, Cobb, and Spada, what is meant a functional reading lexicon? The minimum recognition vocabulary knowledge need to facilitate reading comprehension. In previous studies, we can conclude that 2,000 words families have been widely accepted as the amount of basic vocabulary in the learner's lexical list. If she would like to interact and read without too much blocks. About expanding the vocabularies, the university ESL learners have at unsurpassed partial acquaintance of a generated form from STEM words. For example, persistent, persistently, and persistence from persist. A British study conducted by Milton and Mira revealed that language learner learning in the non-native speaking background should learn at the rate of 2,005 words each year, while the tempo of those studying in classroom at home in the native speaking countries was only about 550. Based on above theories, this study brings to a conclusion that the learner should be able to self-study and gain around 2,190 words, as well as the basic lexical list a person should have. The formula can be revealed as the following: 365 days multiplied by half and multiplied by 12 words after each reading occasion equals to 2,190 words. The methodology of this study has been conducted in the required general English course of National Sun Yat-sen University, where 26 students learn English through reading their textbook. The students' performances of vocabulary quizzes in the first 2 months and the later 2 months were measured and compared. In the first 2 weeks, the trainer applied traditional direct teaching to convey the meaning of the words in reading contents without any treatment. Through directly narrate the context in the reading textbook, the lecturer provided the meaning to the words that were new to the 26 freshmen in different colleges of National Sun Yat-sen University. For the second session, as well as the third and the fourth weeks of the study, the trainer applied student-centered interactive approaches and makes students have opportunities to talk to each other when learning the new words. In this study, 26 adult students were divided into groups of 4 or 5, and they are requested to apply the new vocabularies in discussions for writing transcripts of role plays. 2 rows of scores through 2 different types of traditional and modernized treatment were compared by t-test. After testing by SPSS, the Statistical measuring software, the significantly differences were revealed and showed in the different effectiveness level through 2 types of vocabulary teaching methods. At the end of the study, the accuracy level of the students' applications for new words were observed and measured. Through the following criteria, 26 students' scores were measured. The study might be significant because the field of teaching vocabulary has not a very long history. The 26 students are non-English majors in National Sun Yat-sen University, located at the south parts of Taiwan Island. These adult language learners, around 19 to 23 years old, are freshmen from different colleges, including majors of Chinese literature, majors of music, computer science, biology, drama, performance, etc. Students were given 2 quizzes at the end and the first and second session of training. Students' scores of memory words in the first part as well as the chapter 1 to chapter 10 were measured through a simple quiz at the end of the training. Students were requested to answer the meaning to the 15 written words on the blackboard. The data correction in the second session of training is more complicated. At the end of the study, for chapter 6 to chapter 10, students were asked to do the role play based on the content of the test. So how will students can learn vocabularies through traditional direct method and updated interactive approaches? How much students can improve in their proficiency of vocabulary after being taught by the interactive approaches? The t-test was applied to compare and contrast students' academic performances in vocabulary application. Through the graph concluded by SPSS, the significant difference level can be revealed through the number of very close to 0. Is there a very significant difference? This study assumed that there might be obvious difference between 2 teaching methods, since the university should be motivated and the student can better learn through an interactive, interesting learning way by role play. The limitation of the study might the first part of the vocabulary could be trouble-free, and the student might be able to become skilled at the first part because it's easier. The t-test assesses whether the means of the 2 groups are statistically dissimilar from each other. This examination is fitting whenever the researchers need to judge against the means of 2 groups. The significant difference can be shown by the t-test. They achieve different 2 scores in the second and the first sessions. A traditional direct pedagogy of teaching vocabularies. The first one, demonstrating the integration of teaching vocabulary and the pronunciation. Secondly, teaching both structure and meaning of the words. Thirdly, providing students the stress on speech attentiveness and self-monitoring when using the word. Finally, a focus on meaningful practice through doing drill exercises of making sentences. One of the more updated vocabulary pedagogies might be the one that Dogan Yüksel and the Belgian Tribble had mentioned in their study. Huang and Eski's similar research investigated the effects of the closed captioned on TV and the listening comprehension in intermediate ESL students. Moreover, it suggests the field worker in area of the vocabulary teaching and learning that besides interactive approaches of role play should be applied and tested. Several updated vocabulary teaching methods should also be applied and measured. For example, learning vocabularies through computer software have been suggested by many scholars. The recommendation of further study, this computer-assisted learning program for learning and teaching vocabulary would suggest another particular choice that can be regarded as a possible alternative approach, especially for adult language learners. For those who have no sufficient time of allowable condition to gain knowledge of English vocabulary in a community surroundings due to their various difficulties.